Have you ever been a part of a business that was growing and then all of a sudden it stopped and maybe even things went the wrong direction and you couldn't figure out why that was? Today, I have the answer to why that happened to you. And that answer is the operating cycle. We've been going through a series where we're talking about the three cycles of business: the planning cycle, the growth cycle, and the operating cycle. Everyone gets inherently the planning cycle and the growth cycles. But what happens is that growth cycle happens, and then all of a sudden you exit out of that growth cycle and you can't figure out why. It could be because you've not done the planning, but what we've often found is that growth outgrows or outpaces your internal operations. And that's where the operating cycle, when done well, can help a business continue to compound and grow. So today, we're going to talk about the operating cycle, what that looks like within a business, and developing a culture of operational excellence. So let's jump right in. The operating cycle, when done well, is a series of disciplines, and discipline equals freedom. We often think as this discipline is restrictive. We think of it as a thing that we don't want to do because we're this entrepreneur that's just growing and growing and growing the business. But the reality is that when we do these disciplined things right, it can ultimately catapult us into growth in the next phase of the business. The operating cycle is what keeps the plan alive long enough to work. It's how you turn strategy into predictable performance. And it's not through brilliance or hustle, but through the rhythm and discipline that comes with a mature business. So today we're going to talk about the rhythms of the operating cycle. The first set of rhythms for the operating cycle are the financial rhythms. Those are the rhythms that we live and breathe, that we love. The first financial rhythm is the weekly financial review. This weekly financial review is you sitting down with a key set of KPIs that you've identified in your planning sessions and reviewing those KPIs on a weekly basis. The second financial rhythm is the monthly close and review process. It's so easy to get really fast and loose with this process and think I can get my financials whenever. But a business that does its financials on a regular cadence so that you know when you're getting that set of financials and does their processes consistently is key to making sure that the business is operating as expected. And then last, we have the quarterly forecast and reporting. We should be doing this forecast on an annual basis, but each quarter we want to go through and we want to update that forecast based off the way things have changed within the business. We also want to insert specialized reporting that may not be as important or needed on a monthly basis. A good example of this quarterly reporting would be a breakdown of either market segments, how you've done in each of those segments. It'd be a breakdown of locations, a breakdown of different products or services that you offer. It's going more granular into areas of the business where longer term trends help you understand things better than up-to-date immediate information. So often, if we look at, say, the product mix on a weekly basis, that can give us wrong signals one week to the next. But by zooming out to that quarterly focus, we can now get the data at the time and place that it's helpful to see the larger trends and changes within the business. By doing these operating rhythms, we put ourselves in a place where we're not reactive, but where we're proactive and seeing the data when it needs to be seen. When you pair this weekly financial review of the key KPIs and of cash and a cash flow forecast, maybe even, and you then do a tight monthly close where you're closing the books within a 5 to 10 day period and looking at those financials on that schedule. And then you pair that with a quarterly forecast update and specialized reporting. You give leadership, you give the business financial clarity. And that financial clarity gives leadership confidence so that they can build calmer, steadier businesses. This creates stability that is the foundation for the business to catapult itself into the next growth cycle. The next set of rhythms we're going to talk about are the team rhythms. The team rhythms are the rhythms that are for the leadership team or a smaller segment of the business, but they are also things that will flow down the business chain into the day-to-day lower level jobs. The team rhythms make sure that everyone is rowing in the same direction. So we have three things here with the team rhythms. The first is a weekly leadership huddle. This huddle makes sure that, again, you're reviewing these KPIs. Everyone is on the same page, rowing the same directions. This often looks like sales data. This looks like qualified leads. This looks like close rates. This looks like retention. Reviewing this ensures your team knows what actions are needed next. This is different from the weekly financial review, and that weekly financial review is often focused on cash or financial metrics. And this weekly leadership huddle is making sure that people are on the same page and that you're, from a sales and operating perspective, operating well. Next, we have the monthly departmental review. This monthly departmental review makes sure that all of your department is on the same page. You know what was achieved in the last month, what the next initiative or thing is, but then you also know who is accountable for each thing. This is, again, looking at metrics potentially, but it's even bigger, making sure that we know these are the goals that we set out and we are all rowing in the same direction. As kind of a close cousin of this is that shared scoreboard. I encourage every business to come up with some key things that they're sharing among departments or at a business level that get everyone within the business on the same page. I've written about how to choose the right KPIs from a business perspective, and I would encourage you down below, we'll put a link to that course to go take that course, think about that for your business, and start implementing those right KPIs so that you can publish those scorecards and keep everyone in the business on the same page. This work may seem like boring work, but boring work done consistently beats exciting meetings every single time. Consistent alignment sets you to execute well within the business and actually achieve your goals instead of those goals being aspirational. And then the last rhythm that we have is the systems rhythm. These are the things that we do on top of those financial and team rhythms that help make sure that, again, the business is operating like a fine-tuned machine. Great operators don't just run perfect systems. They run learning systems. These are systems that grow and change with the business as the business grows and changes. So the three rhythms that we have here are the quarterly process tune-up. Each quarter, take one or two bottlenecks within the business and get a functional owner of that process to dig deep into it, understand the process, and improve it so it is no longer a bottleneck. If you do this every quarter of the year, you could end up in a matter of a year or two with a completely different process-driven business. This compounds over time. The next is we want to update our documentation. We want to capture work that wasn't institutionalized previously, that was maybe siloed within a group, and we want to make sure that that documentation is flowing up and other people are trained on doing that job as well. I love within the accounting departments doing job rotations where different people do different jobs to see how good the documentation is and to see if they can repeat what was previously done by that person. And then last, automation reviews, asking what is still required for us to do and what can we eliminate through automation. This helps ensure that you don't overhire and that you are forward thinking in how the business runs. Each of these system rhythms are feedback loops that require you to stop and reflect on how the business is doing. When you get in the midst of a growth cycle, it's easy to think nothing is ever going to break. But these types of rhythms force you to pause and reflect and think, which is so, so valuable in a growing or business that's trying to grow situation. A strong operating cycle within a business sets the business up to go through those planning and growth cycles seamlessly so that you can almost be in an infinite growth loop. So, how do we set up a business that, again, it's not just the owner pushing everything forward, but we create a culture of operating well? We can do this a few different ways. We want to make sure that we keep consistent cadences. Each week, each month, each quarter has a purpose. We don't want to get off from that. If you commit to that time and time again, people see that, people are going to buy in to that consistent cadence. We want to make sure that there's clear ownership, that certain people own certain process, own certain parts of the business, and that ownership is trusted, that ownership is part of that culture. If you override those people, that ownership will no longer be on solid ground. And when you no longer have clear ownership, it's hard to get results and push forward. Next, we want to have visibility across the business. I'm not huge on sharing all the financials with everyone, but I think we need a select set of data available to everyone in the business. We want to make sure people understand this data and understand how they can impact this data. Next, we want to be boringly consistent. Don't skip a rhythm because you're busy. When you're busy is when you need that rhythm the most. And then last, we want to build a culture of learning. So encourage learning within the business, encourage people to bring new ideas and things and celebrate those things, share those in larger groups, and make sure that everyone is reflecting and improving. When rhythm becomes culture, execution becomes effortless. The business starts to self-correct on its own and isn't reliant solely on the owner at the top to push everything forward. The goal of these rhythms isn't control. The goal is giving the business confidence so that they can move forward and continue to execute. When these rhythms are implemented in a way that they're consistent, they're clear, they're visible, when those things happen, everyone within the organization gets better and executes more consistently. We want to, again, have the plan give us clarity, operations then build the rhythm, and then growth will come naturally as the next step. Subscribe so you don't miss. We're going to talk about the growth cycle next. Thank you for watching.